Good Friday morning and welcome back.
Here's what we're focusing on this half an hour.
Well, as a vote on a new Supreme Court justice looms, we're digging into the history of the court. Did you know, for example, a president once served, or that judges used to travel the country hearing cases? What else we uncovered in just a few minutes.
You have a smartphone, maybe a smart watch, but soon you could have one of these. It is a smart lamp.
What?
Yeah, seriously, ahead we're predicting the Lampex actually could be one of the next big things.
I knew it. Well, using GPS may be helpful to try to figure out where the heck you're going, but it can come at a cost to our brains.
Yeah.
Are we all getting dumber?
Yes.
We'll explain in about 10 minutes.
Also, we're live on Facebook right now. Tyler, what are we asking folks right now?
We want to know, would you let your kids eat dirt? And how many times a day do you wash your hands? We're going to read some of those responses later in the show.
I thought you were going to say, how many times a day do you eat dirt? And I thought, well, it's a lot.
Too many
Do I
to
wash
count.
my hands after I eat dirt?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But first, is Uber in trouble? Just 6 months into the job, the rideshare company's president, Jeff Jones, well, he's citing concerns over the company's management culture.
Yeah, it was kind of a big thing, and this is just the latest in a string of bad press for Uber. Back in February, a former Uber engineer wrote a blog post in which she described a company culture that allowed for systemic sexism. Soon after, 2 of Uber's original investors penned an open letter slamming the company for what they called their destructive culture.
Uber is a privately held tech company currently valued at $68 billion, so it's pretty serious. So how this might impact their bottom line, if at all? Well, they are far from the only tech company that is facing these accusations. We're kind of using the term bro culture in all of this, but really we're talking about sexist culture, and it's pretty serious.
And what's really going on inside all of these fast-growing, highly successful businesses, and what does a company culture that many have called sexist mean for the future of women in tech?
Taylor Soper, reporter with GeekWire. You've been doing this for 4 years over at GeekWire. We love your stuff. Thank you for being here. So what do you make of these latest headlines about Uber and this sort of what seems to be a pretty dysfunctional culture?
Yeah, dysfunctional is definitely one way to describe it. I mean, Uber is going through a lot of trouble right now. Not only the sexual harassment accusations, but as you mentioned, there's been several executives that have left because I think some of the culture issues. They're being sued by Google and the self-driving technology. So there's a lot of problems at Uber, but I think the main issue is the culture there and what that means both internally for the companies and the employees, but also externally for consumers like you and I. When we read these stories, what does that make us think of the company? And eventually, does that make us not use Uber, maybe opt for another option? So a lot of issues, and as you said, I think this will be a really good test case for the whole tech industry, because it's not just Uber. There's issues like this at every tech company, I think.
If I'm working for a tech company, my first question is going to be, but is it affecting my bottom line? What is and isn't? And you've worked in this industry for a long time. You remember the delete Uber movement that happened a few weeks ago? Well, Uber on a call with the press recently said, well, actually, we had one of our best weeks ever. It didn't really impact us. So do you really see this impacting them?
Yeah, I mean, time will tell. I don't think anyone really knows how this is really going to affect Uber's bottom line, but I think it is going to have some kind of impact long term. You know, Uber's preparing to go public. They're going to have an IPO, and this may have an impact. They're valued at $60 billion today, or I think almost 70 now, which is a ridiculous number, but that may drop as these changes happen. I think there's some turmoil at the top with the CEO, Travis Kalanick. They're trying to hire a COO now, and so we'll see how this shakes out, and I think it will affect the bottom line long term. I think it really affects consumer in terms of how they see the company, and when they read these types of stories, it just doesn't make you feel good about Uber. And Uber's history, I think, over time has just kind of been this image of a take no prisoners type of culture where I think they used to refer to some of their hires as brilliant jerks.
Really?
That's a compliment?
It can be, depending on how you look at it, but just the idea of, we'll sacrifice some of these cultural values for just building really cool technology, and I think that's kind of caught up to them now.
Yeah, I mean, so let's talk about that. This idea of this bro culture or this jerk culture.
Yeah.
I mean, when does it get to a point? It is pretty widespread in tech. When does it get to a point where it starts hurting them? It clearly has helped in some ways. They created a cool product that lots of us use, but at some point, sexism and other things, sexual harassment, catches up with you.
I would say so, and I think with Uber, you're seeing a company even as big as Uber and as powerful as Uber, it will affect a company like that. So, the bro culture, the jerk culture. Short term, you might be able to build a really cool product and make some money, but long term, if you want to have a company like a Microsoft or an Amazon, like right here in our backyard, you need to have a culture that's welcoming of many different perspectives, not only for your internal culture, but also the products that you make need to kind of reflect your customer base, which is not all white engineers, basically, right? So it's an issue that I think maybe has been swept under the rug or hasn't really been brought to light, I think, because it's tough if you're a victim of some of this to really come out with it. But we've seen an ex-Uber engineer named Susan Fowler. She wrote this really long piece about all the issues happening, and that kind of just took the lid off of everything. So I think more of that is going to really help, but it's a problem that it doesn't just happen within companies. I think it goes back to education and how women are perceiving the tech industry and what the opportunities are there for them. I think I saw a stat that 38% of computer science majors like 30 years ago were women, and that's down to like 17% now.
And Melinda Gates is trying to advocate for that. She's been a huge proponent for getting more women, more young girls interested in STEM and the sciences. Do you think potentially that's where this solution lies? I ask that as a two-part question because if I'm a girl and I get into this, if I'm, 8 or 9, but I hear that this might be the culture I'm going into, I mean, there has to be a solution on either end, I would think, to meet in the middle.
And if you're a woman and you read a story like Susan Fowler's, it makes you not want to go into the tech industry, right? But I think that needs to happen for a longer term. So, we'll see what happens. I do think it's an education issue. It starts when we're young and when we're learning and when we're seeing these certain things happen. So, yeah, we'll see how it happens, but you're right, Melinda Gates, she's just launched a new organization called Pivotal Ventures in Seattle, and she's really focused on the STEM issue, and she really believes that's where it needs to change first, and then that can kind of have an effect on the whole industry as a whole.
Can Uber really quickly turn this around?
We'll see. I don't think really quickly. I think it'll take time. They really need a big culture, change at the top. And it starts at the top with Travis Kalanick, as I mentioned. He's kind of been the driving force behind all of the things that they're doing. So, and he's admitted he does need leadership help. So we'll see what happens. The board's getting involved. Ariane Huffington, who
I heard that this morning.
She's really involved in the search for the new COO. And there's a bunch of other things like how they treat their drivers, how they treat their customers, how they treat their employees. So we'll see. And I think 30 years from now, it's going to be a great case study for kind of seeing how a company handles this type of thing. But we'll see, and Uber's about to go public, so there's so many things happening, and hopefully good things will happen for them.
Taylor Soper with GeekWire, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Great perspective.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Well, confirmation hearings just wrapped yesterday for President Donald Trump's Supreme Court nominee, Neil Gorsuch. Now, Gorsuch is the 162nd nominee to go through Senate hearings in the history of the Supreme Court. So we wondered, what are some other interesting facts can we come up with when it comes about the highest court in the land, okay? So stay with us. Maybe you knew none of these, or maybe you knew some of these, but now you can go to work or school and tell all of your friends, guess what? All right, so let's take a look at this first one. The American Bar Association actually rates the nominations to the Supreme Court. This is a process that didn't start until the 1950s, but it involves a standing committee that's on the federal judiciary that evaluates every single nominee and then ranks them from 3 options: qualified, well qualified, and not qualified. Most presidents since the 1950s have consulted the ABA in advance, but President George W. Bush's administration broke with that tradition in 2001, even though the ABA continued to issue their rankings anyway. For Gorsuch, for example, the committee unanimously ranked him the highest, well qualified, but incidentally, that's the same ranking they gave Merrick Garland, President Barack Obama's pick last year. Some other interesting facts about the U.S. Supreme Court. Well, according to constitutioncenter.org, the official judiciary system as it exists today created a long time ago. September 24th, 1789. That's when Congress passed the final measure of the Judiciary Act after several months of debate. Now, members of the Supreme Court used to literally ride the circuit. They were required once a year to travel the country to preside over circuit courts. A lot of them complained about it, and that requirement was lifted in 1891. The permanent home of the High Court moved around a lot before the Civil War and was in the cramped old Senate chamber from 1861 until 1935. That's when they finally scored their own building, the Supreme Court building. Also, did you know a president once sat on the Supreme Court after serving his term, of course? President William Taft was the Chief Justice from 1921 until 1930 after he served as president. So what's next for Gorsuch? Well, he needs 60 votes in the Senate to be confirmed. Republicans have 52 votes. So, Travis, this is something we are keeping a very close eye on. We don't know where it's going to go, but we're definitely going to keep you updated on that.
I kind of wish that they were still traveling the circuit. I kind of wish Congress would do the same thing and meet in all 50 states at least once every couple of years, just so that these people who are in D.C. could talk to us a little bit more and we could have more access to them.
Stay connected.
Yeah, right? Well, speaking of staying connected, we're always on the lookout for the next big thing, and this week we may have found something that shows all the signs of being just that. It looks like a normal desk lamp. There it is. But it's called Lampix, and it just won one of the top prizes at the South by Southwest conference. The lamp connects you to your computer or your smartphone, and then the lamp's light actually turns your table or your desk or another surface into a touchscreen computer, like an additional monitor. You can check your email, you can edit documents, you can write directly there, scan in items. You can work as a team together on the same tabletop conference table, for example. It doesn't work really well in bright lights or on shiny surfaces or in glass, but the company is working to fix that. In the meantime, the LampX expected to cost about $300, going on sale this fall. There's already interest from, get this, stores. So you can imagine a display at Nordstrom using this, for example. Companies, collaborative in your office, and then hotels. Maybe checking in, you could check in the hotel lobby just by punching some, I don't know, artwork in the lobby itself.
I'm also imagining if you and I were having drinks with friends and one of us started using a lamp nearby with our phone, like all of our friends could reach over and start messing around with it.
That's exactly right. Reading our email.
Not that I don't trust our friends, but...
No, of course not.
No, I don't. How many of us use GPS to get around? You do, Travis.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, well, it's pretty rare for us to actually give people directions anymore. Or maybe remember when we printed them out and then tried to look at them while we drove?
Oh, yes.
The worst. Well, it turns out using GPS could be making us all dumb. Researchers at University College London measured people's brain function while using GPS and found parts of the brain that should be activated while navigating were quiet.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Quiet.
It's not so good.
Doing nothing.
I've outsourced my brain to my phone.
Who needs it?
It's fine. I do think that's true, though. I certainly feel like I've outsourced my memory to my brain. Or if I have a question about something, and you know how you used to debate, like, who was the actor who played that one?
I'll Google it.
You just
Google it.
Some of all human knowledge is in our pocket now.
So what do? Researchers say when we use GPS, we're just following directions and not at all thinking for ourselves. In fact, we're all born with a natural sense of navigation, allegedly. I would say my husband was not. Using GPS too much over a long period of time can mess up your sense of navigation.
Yeah, so we really are getting dumber. Thanks.
I mean, it makes sense now because I will log into a mapping app anytime I need to go somewhere, even if I think I know how to get there. Because I don't trust myself.
You don't trust your own brain, but you trust your phone.
Maybe I shouldn't because now it's dumb.
Do you let your kids eat dirt?
Well, do you?
No, no. But Tyler, that's what we're asking folks on Facebook. Are folks telling us whether their kids eat dirt or not?
They are, believe it or not. A lot of people are saying yes.
Yay!
Amanda says, she makes a good point. We pick our own vegetables in the garden and eat them without washing, so then you're eating dirt.
Wow.
Think about the skin of a potato. But John says, no way, will not let my child eat dirt. It's unsafe.
So before you judge what these viewers are saying, we're digging in next to why microbes in our gut could be going extinct and why that could be dangerous for our health more so than eating dirt. Parents, we have an important question for you. If your child was licking the floor, would you stop them?
I mean, of course you would.
Right?
Right?
Maybe?
Maybe you shouldn't. There's a controversial new book. It's called Let Them Eat Dirt. It's by a University of British Columbia microbiologist and his colleague at the University of Calgary. There's the book right there. It makes the case that we're actually harming our kids and ourselves by over-sanitizing our lives. In fact, by fighting dirt and the microbes that come along with it, we may actually be raising the risk of asthma, allergies, obesity, even diabetes.
Now, I know you're left with a lot of questions after we put all of that on you. So we're here to help. Dr. Carly Osk is a gastroenterologist from Swedish Medical, nice enough to join us this morning. So thank you for doing this. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So why is it when we're talking about microbes and bacteria, we sometimes hear that it might actually be good for humans?
Well, so there's many bacteria living all around our environment, including inside ourselves. And some of those are harmful and cause illnesses, but some of them are actually helping us digest our food and live our lives. And that's the big difference, is they're helping us metabolize our food and live.
I mean, we live in a society right now, our culture that is just obsessed with cleanliness. I mean, in this book, they kind of lay out the argument that, like, that could be bad for us. What's your opinion on our obsession with cleanliness?
Yeah, sometimes I think maybe we take it too far, and maybe there's everything in moderation, and there's a balance that we should have. And in the book, it talks about how maybe we're living in too clean of an environment, and as a baby, when we're exposed to all the bacteria and the pet dander that lives all around us, that's actually teaching our immune system how to live as an adult in the environment around us. And if you're not exposed to those things, then you're at a higher risk for getting asthma, allergies, and some of those other illnesses.
So where is the line? If you're a parent, you're thinking, okay, I guess I can understand exposing them a little bit, but how far is too far? What do you make of the argument that we should let our kids eat dirt?
Yeah, I think maybe not taking that literally, not cooking dirt for dinner, but I would say let them be kids. Let them play outside, let them have pets, just let them be kids, but also use common sense. when they come inside and go to eat, they should wash their hands. After they go to the bathroom, they should wash their hands with soap and water. If they're playing with somebody who's sick, they should wash their hands. But let's not go too far and be constantly sanitizing our hands with everything that we do.
I liked the example of like, it's okay maybe if they were licking the kitchen floor, but maybe don't let them lick in the backyard, for example.
Or, a public restroom.
Yeah,
Don't do that.
not a good idea.
Yeah, not a
Keeping
good
the infectious
idea.
stuff at bay. So I'm wondering about you mentioned this, increasing the risk of asthma, for example, allergies, but also, potentially obesity, diabetes. There's a lot of things that our gut bacteria, if they start to go extinct, could be linked to.
Yeah, so, our gut bacteria is incredibly complex, and we know a little bit about it, but there's so much more that we still have yet to know. And there's interesting research in mice about how it's tied to obesity, and we haven't yet figured out how to harness that into turning that into a treatment or a prevention of obesity. And that's where the big question is, and hopefully our future research will give us more information about.
What does this mean for adults? I know we've talked a lot about kids and how where's the line and what do you let for your kids? But I'm thinking about how many adults go into work sick. So you have that on one end of the spectrum, like, okay, I'm sick and I'm coughing all over people, versus people who come in and refuse to touch anything and they wash their hands and use hand sanitizer every 5 minutes. As adults, where is that line? At what point are we going beyond what we can really be doing to protect ourselves?
Well, I think a lot of the research in this book is really about training your immune system when you're less than 1 year old. And so that's when it seems like the exposure to all the different types of things is most crucial in just teaching your immune system. And then as adults, I think it is, again, using common sense, is trying not to expose people too much to things, but also not being overly concerned or overly worried about things unless there's some reason that you're more at risk than the average person, because you do have an immune system that helps you fight off all the things that live around us that are harmful to you.
Are you worried at all that our gut bacteria may be going extinct, at least some of them? We've been kind of obsessively washing our hands and sanitizing things for, I don't know, like 100 years. The gut bacteria that my great-grandmother had maybe is very different than what I have left.
Yeah.
And that kind of worries me.
It's actually, I think there's some research about that it has changed over centuries of the gut bacteria that's living in us, because it changes with our diet too. And so I think, again, it's just an area that's super complicated that we need to learn more about and try to figure out how we can get the healthiest balance in our gut to help us avoid obesity and diabetes and all of these other problems.
What about good bacteria that we're encouraged to add to our diets in nutritional ways, like kombucha, and there are a couple other things that I know people drink. There's like a liquid yogurt that people like to have because of all the good bacteria. Is that a good or a bad idea?
So it's not a bad idea, and some people may do it and feel no better and feel no worse, and so maybe there are people who don't necessarily need it because of the bacteria in their gut are healthy, but there are other people who do that and it helps them manage symptoms, and there's research behind that. And so my general approach is, if it helps you to feel better, then great, then do it, and there's likely not any harm to it.
So I want to get back to the hand sanitizer too, because I think that's everybody wants to use it these days. But it seems to me like there's a growing scientific and consensus that maybe we shouldn't be using it like we do.
Yeah, maybe just soap and water is good enough.
All right, I like that. So maybe when the kids come in, we can wash their hands. Maybe before they eat, we can wash their hands.
Yep.
Not send them to school with sanitizer stuck to their backpack.
Yep, and don't let them lick the bathroom floor.
Bathroom floor.
Yep.
I can't make any promises, but I'll try.
Dr. Osk, thank you so much, gastroenterologist
Thank
from
you for
Surge
having
Medical
me,
Center.
yeah.
Appreciate your
Thanks.
insight.
Great information. So we want to know from you, how often do you wash your hands? How often do your kids wash their hands? Would you let them eat dirt? Maybe would you change
Maybe
your
a little
mind
bit.
after hearing this conversation? So Tyler's over on our Facebook page right now. We want to share your responses. We'll do that coming up next.
And take a look at your screen right now. This is your Friday trivia. Remember, Travis and I do not know the answer
Nope.
either. This is the first we're seeing of it. So please guess with us on our Facebook page and then join us on the other side of the break for the answer. Ooh, all of the above.
All right, take a look at your screen. This is your Friday trivia. 23% of us feel guilty that we don't do this on a daily basis.
I guessed A, call their mom. You guessed.
I said C, keep up with the news. The doctor we just had on said the B, significant other, kissing your significant other was her guess.
And any guesses on Facebook?
Anybody have any
helping?
good guesses over there, Tyler?
Can you
A
solve
little
the
bit of
help?
each so far.
Yeah.
Dana says kissing the spouse.
Okay.
Okay.
Before
And the
bed.
answer, producer Bavisha, is? Oh, we were all wrong?
Nobody got it right.
Oh, no. We're never going to
Nobody-
hear the end of it.
Nobody got it right.
Make their bed. Why would you feel guilty
I
about
feel
that?
no guilt about that.
Yeah.
I'm
It
sorry.
either happens or it doesn't.
No,
It's
I-
just more for my cat to roll around in.
I do make it before I get into it at night.
Wait, what?
I'm a weird person.
You make the bed and then you...
I do. I don't want to get into a bed that's unmade. I know, it's ridiculous. I know.
So you leave it unmade. I'm sorry.
All
You leave
day.
it unmade during
All
the day.
day.
And then you're like, time for bed.
Yes. Yes, that's exactly what I do.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
I respect that.
No, you don't.
It's not weird.
It's hilarious, but it's true. So we're talking more about, speaking of weird things, maybe eating dirt and hand washing, and how often do you wash your hands? How often do your kids wash our hands and wash their hands? Tyler, come in here. So what are people saying about eating dirt and about kids and themselves washing hands?
Well, Pam says all kids should eat some dirt and not wash so much. That's why everyone's sick all the time. No one has an immune system anymore. Maybe my favorite comment so far, though, is from Cynthia. She says, a little dirt don't hurt.
I think that's
And
true.
that's kind of what the doctor just said.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I like the idea of like, it's okay to lick the floor inside. It's just not okay to lick the floor outside or in the
Or
public
outside
restroom.
the toilet. Probably
Yeah,
not.
maybe don't lick the toilet. But maybe the bathroom floor is okay. Or maybe the bathtub is okay.
We have
What
to be
did-
told these things sometimes.
What did your parents do for you guys growing up?
I remember like eating vegetables and fruit in the garden without washing it. So that's one way that I did it. I always leave the skin on a potato, so you're
Yes.
getting
Yep.
some dirt that
Yeah.
way, which a bunch of our viewers have been pointing out.
That
What
is
about
very
you
true.
guys?
Did you?
My parents were the parents when they found out someone down the street had chicken pox. They sent me to the house
Yeah.
to
Oh.
get the chicken pox.
Get it out of the way.
Get it out of the way. It didn't work, but good effort, Mom.
My parents, I don't think, cared all that much. They were fine with me playing outside and getting dirty. The problem is that I was the one who was like, ooh, I need to wash my hands.
Really?
Yeah, like, oh, I don't want to touch that. I don't want to, like, meh.
Germ?
Yes.
Germaphobe a little
I
bit?
still am a little bit that
Yeah.
way.
Oh, sorry.
I just am, yeah. But I'm trying to let our daughter, like, I'm trying to not freak out about it. And I'm especially trying to keep her away from the hand sanitizers and just let her use washing her hands with soap and water.
Moderation is key, as with everything. That's
Yeah.
always usually the answer.
Yeah. Awesome. As always, Tyler,
right.
thank you for
Thanks,
running
Tyler.
the
Of
Facebook
course.
Live and good conversation. Thank you to you at home for all of the awesome comments.
Don't forget, we're here every Friday morning at 9:30. Have a great weekend. Enjoy watching March Madness. I hope that your brackets are doing better than ours. Go Zags! Go Gonzaga! Have a great weekend, everyone.
Go Gonzaga.